Welcome, Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Immediately, as soon as we go live, I immediately encounter my first problem. So I say I've checked all the OBS settings over the weekend and streamed. As soon as I started the live stream, it says, your stream bitrate is lower than we would recommend. Warning. I'm like, oh, wonderful. So there's me thinking I need to lower the settings slightly just to make things a bit more stable. I tested all weekend, streaming live, no warning. As soon as you're actually doing a proper live show,
Notifications.
you get a notification from YouTube saying, warning, bitrate's too low. Well, it's only gone down by 1500, so I'm sure I can increase it again. Hopefully that won't cause instability throughout the week, but there's my first problem. We'll see if that continues. Let's do some housekeeping questions. Stream health warnings from YouTube aside. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
The only way to derive that would be to use the surface of Earth as a horizontal plane.
Right, it's just a suggestion to consider the flat plane to be spherical. That's it.
So one of the things we're going to drive home throughout this week, all being well, is a necessity for a flat plane in all instances. Now, this was discussed on the pre-show, but it's an idea that I want people to really cement in their mind because it's a reassuring notion when you understand it as a flat earther. And we're going to cover some of those things with that in mind in the housekeeping. So we're going to go through them with that in mind, not necessarily just talking to John. Arwin wasn't here in the pre-show to hear the conversation, but he'll get the idea as we go along. Obviously, I'm going to lean on some of the people who were here from Discord during that conversation. All of you here during that conversation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. So there will be a few people who interject, hopefully, from Discord. So let's ask a couple of the housekeeping questions with that in mind. So any evidence of axial rotation?
No, there's Coriolis correction. So you know it's spinning because there's no deviation, but there is, but then it's corrected for, even though it's an apparent deviation, but it's still possible because we don't see anything spin. Is that good enough?
The axis itself is derived from a flat plane measurement to Polaris.
So you're going to need a flat Earth for axial rotation, Arwin?
Yeah, man, you may really, it's so annoying.
It's not annoying. What do you mean annoying?
Yeah, it is annoying. You're annoying my Baldwin. It's really annoying.
Oh, well.
Always the same thing. Like, yeah, we need a flat plane for that. Can we move on now?
Why is that objectionable, Arwin? You're going to have to... That is, to me, your objection is so egregious, I'm going to ask you to highlight why that would be annoying, as you put it.
You just ruin everything. You ruin the game. How can we consider anything to be a globe when it's all based off a flat plane every time?
Echoed sentiments from the likes of Brian and Sleeping Warrior is what you're doing, correct? If we don't allow them to beg the question, Arwin, are you suggesting that that takes away the fun of debating? What's the point of debating if it's an Earth that's spherical versus an Earth that's pancake? if you point out that all derivations and models are starting with a measurement that's from a flat plane. That takes away the fun, because everyone's just arguing for a flat plane then, right, Arwin?
Yeah, no. But look, I appreciate that you figured out the nature of reality and that it requires a flat plane, but it's just saying it every time makes it more difficult for those who voluntarily wish to engage at consideration of that flat plane to be a sphere. It's just very disruptive if you keep saying it like that every time. Right?
No, not right.
The sphere believers are going to consider it to be a flat plane. It's just if you say it exactly like that every time, you just disrupt that process in your mind. It's like, could you please stop trying to break the delusion of that the Earth is a globe, even though it's based off a flat plane? Please?
I can. What I also know is I've now banged my bitrate up from 8,000 to 13,000. Hopefully that won't cause any issues. We shall see. Anyway, you're saying it's an annoyance, Arwin, and it really isn't. It's an annoyance if you can't put the B and C from the A to D. If, in other words, how can I phrase this? If you can negotiate your way through the back roads and discussions without employing fallacies on the flat earth side, then there's no reason why you shouldn't rest assured that there is a quicker and easier way of doing it. And that is to say that there is a flat earth requirement for your claim, Mr. Globe proponent, who's declaring orbits, declaring axial rotation, declaring Coriolis effect, declaring gradiated horizontal layers to give them diffraction rates. Anything they claim will be requiring a flat plane. Why wouldn't you want to point that out?
Because you leave so little room for the imagination.
So what you're saying is because our opponent's claim is based in imagination land, we should leave room for that?
No.
Yeah, that is what you're saying.
I want room for that.
Yeah, but we're not speculating about what it could be when we're debating with people who physically reify the nature of a flat plane measurement derived into a sphere by concept into the world they're actually standing on. That's not imagination land, that's delusion.
Yeah. Is there a difference?
Also, within the delusion itself, when they talk about latitude-based Coriolis, which would be actual deviation, not apparent, they need a flat plane for that Coriolis as well.
Of course. But I mean, delusion and illusion, or imagination and delusion, are not really that far off. I mean, delusion is basically imagination reified into reality. That's it.
No, that's reification.
Yeah, but that is a
why are we doing this?
When people do that, when they think that the imagination is the reality, that is delusion.
Why are we discussing this though?
So we can get away from that. It's all based off a flat plane, damn it.
Rhetorical. I'm saying, why are we discussing the whys and wherefores of people's cognition in respect to the point that flat Earth's going to be measured? That's what happens, isn't it? You point out to the world.
Anything to get away from that.
Yes, thank you, Arwin. To get you away from the point that you're measuring a flat plane to claim you're on a globe, you'll discuss the vulnerability of people's perception, or the inability for people to conceptualize a reification, or who cares?
I gotta try, man.
In the pre-show,
this is still Baldwin doing this, dude. Just so you know.
In the pre-show, John was discussing the fact that when he's got kids over his right shoulder and he's in a discussion with people, it's hard because the person doesn't want to hear or may not understand something that you're trying to put across to them. And it's because of things like this, where you're going to need a flat Earth to claim you're orbiting. So it makes no sense to reify that into a physical way of being. You can't be physically orbiting if you're describing that with respect to angles measured off a flat plane. It's preposterous. But if you want to say, oh, let's negate the fact that you're taking angles from a flat plane to mathematically describe an orbit with respect to a celestial sphere over a flat plane. Well,
yes.
If we start with the point where we're on a sphere that's reified from those measurements, then you can be on a ball and I can be on a pizza and we can argue happily. Sod that.
Yeah, now you're thinking like a baller.
I'm not a baller. Nor am I Sleeping Warrior or Brian or anybody else that likes getting into the begging the question idea of what they'll take from a flat plane measurement, turn into a ball, and then argue, we can't work on a flat plane. They've got to explain how they've... Go on, Arwin.
Sorry, it's just so funny when you say it like that. But I
What's
get
funny?
it.
That is the recipe, though. He said it exactly. They use a flat plane to argue why a flat plane can't work.
All right, so let's just move on. I'm not really objecting. I was just trying to just psychologically distract away from this endless repeating mantra of you're going to need a flat plane for that.
That's another tactic. Now you're trying a new tactic by disclaiming that you're discarding the old one. You think I don't know you? I've known you for nearly 10 years, Arwin. What Arwin's
I can't
now
help
doing...
it.
And he's interrupting me because he knows I've caught his game.
I'm not interrupting you.
So Arwin is now trying to dilute the point, right? Belittle the point, make it seem less important. Oh, well, we're just going over the same thing over and over again that proves Earth's flat and the globe measurements come from a flat plane. We're just covering that over and over. It's just nausea, isn't it, Arwin? It's almost like it's tedious, like it's not worth talking about, right? I know you're
Yes, just chanting. Just
chanting.
Flat plane for that.
Like that.
Okay, chanting.
We're just chanting that you'll need a flat Earth for that. Yeah. A nice tactic to try and dilute the most strong point. Yes, you can keep saying it over and over again, like it means something, to declare that you'll need a flat Earth angle measurement for your orbits, for example. You can keep saying it, but it's not like your repetition makes it more strong. Yeah, it does actually. Stating that fact over and over again will make it more strong, and I'm happy to do so. But what's that? You want to discuss how the cognition of your baller might feel when not allowed to reify and start at the point where they're on a ball that they measured from a flat plane. It's much easier for them if you argue in discussion where they start with the reification in tow, so they can perfectly justify begging the question with every example, because they're already on a sphere, and you've allowed them to do so when you don't tell them that they took that measurement from a flat plane to infer their reification, Arwin. Yes, it is absolutely strong, and I will repeat it.
Because that's how you learn to do it in school, right? Of course, you start with the presupposition that the Earth is a sphere, right? And then you figure out how. That's science.
Any scientific evidence of gravity? Oh, go on, John. Did you have something else? Shout out to Jado just before you do. I'm terribly sick. Someone take over just while I get this out.
Okay, I'll read.
I just wanted to say that you never. Hold on a second. You never, at any point in time, assert that surface level is curving in any calculation, in any measurement. That is never done. Surface level is always a horizontal plane. So even in the Earth curve calculator, they're arguing about the physical geometric obstruction of the flat plane. That's what that calculator argues, at best.
Okay, shout out to Jado. Yeah, he says, "Hey legends, don't forget we are moving into Christmas season. Christ's birth is the great flat Earth story from 2,000 years ago." Thank you for the super chat, Jado. And a happy Christmas to all of you too. Not even December yet. Anyway.
Yeah, first St. Nicholas first. The 5th of December.
Flat Earth show. Hello. Flat Earth show. Any scientific evidence of gravity, as you mentioned science, Arwin?
Well, gravity doesn't seem to influence Santa Claus's sleigh. And there's even been footage caught by NASA of it, officially released.
Well, on that, because we are talking about a phenomenon, if we're talking about science, would the phenomenon take place in a downward vector as it relates to vertical?
Are you asking me what gravity is?
Listen to his question.
Is the phenomenon that's asserted to happen, whether it does or not, is it relate to the downward vector in the vertical?
I don't know. Next question.
Does gravity imply a downward bias, Arwin? I.e., it's downward. That's
No, officially it doesn't. It's just this colloquial belief, that makes it convenient to help visualize why the Earth would have stuff sticking to a ball in outer space. But gravity isn't a force, so no, there's not technically a downward bias involved.
any other day. Arwin would be doing the complete opposite to this. This is normally my bloody role, but Arwin's got to be awkward, hasn't he, ladies and gentlemen?
Yep.
Well, he invoked outer space, so he's going to have to invoke eccentricity to get his solar system and galaxies and things like that. And
exactly.
Eccentricity goes with the horizontal plane.
Exactly. The eccentricity of space would require your description to come with respect to a plane of reference for the entirety of that space when describing orbits, even in pseudo-4 space, Arwin. You will still need a horizontal plane of reference, won't you? It's not boring. It's not tedious. This is the death nail for the globe, Arwin. Their globe needed a flat Earth to describe it from the day they described it. That's about as powerful as any argument gets, and Arwin's sighing, just to be contrarian. He's putting his smiley emojis through in the Hangout like I can't see him either. Thinks it's funny.
No, it's just, Baldwin is like, but I'm smiling here because it's true. It's like, wow, we got them by the balls, and it turns out their balls is a flat plane.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of putting it. We've got them by the balls and their balls are flat. Not quite workable as an analogy, but it almost works, so why not? Yeah, their flat balls are exactly what they have. They took measurements from a plane and then derived the ball from them. Very interesting turn of events over the course of the 2023 period. 2022 equally interesting with elevation angles. 2021, year of the sextant. 2020, year of the black swan. What was 2019? Year of the begging the question, perspective hijacking Earth curve maths, no doubt. It's been a long journey, but to say at the end of that journey you're going to need a flat Earth for that, I think is a pretty glorious place to be. Why people find it objectionable on the flat Earth side is beyond me, but they do. Maybe they want to argue. Another shout out to Jardo. Just pop it on screen. For those of you who are confused that Maggie had to use an elevation angle to find the GP, oh God, of the star hovering over Jesus. Praise Jesus for proving a flat Earth proof, for providing a flat Earth proof. So what you're saying is to follow the star to lead the three wise men to Bethlehem when it settled above the stable, they would have needed a flat Earth to take an elevation angle measurement. Is that what you're saying, Jardo? It's loose. It's loose. It's pretty loose. I've got to be honest. They followed the star. They just had to follow it. I don't think God said, and ye shall find GP positions with respect to star above stable. I don't think that happened, Jardo. I've got to be honest. I'm not that Bible literate. Literate? Is that even a word? Literate? Literate. But I'm pretty sure my memory of the story didn't include taking angles and then formulating circles with them to find your position because they were lost. They weren't lost. They weren't drunken sailors. Not that I'm suggesting drunken sailors are the ones that get lost.
I'm pretty sure they weren't using a sextant to follow that star. They were just following the star. It was probably more like a comet in the sky. And it was just like, okay, we're going to go in that direction.
You'd make a polar turn, horribly full of colour hearing things like that. No. Just take it literally. They followed it. It wasn't a comet. It was a star. They followed the star.
Yeah, but if it's actually a star, then it would be fixed in the sky. If they follow, how can it be fixed in the sky then? Which star was it then?
You're talking about how could these happen in a story penned by God, a man who in that very same book made the sun stop.
Yeah, but he did not clarify whether it was exclusively the sun that stopped or whether the entire celestial sphere stopped.
What's the problem here?
He never said that.
I don't normally get involved in these sorts of biblical discussions. There is no contention here. They followed a star. It ain't complicated.
Yeah, but it's not really literally defined as to like what that actually implies, because it's just a story. It's not technical. It's not a technical manual like, oh yeah, this is exactly how it works and you have to use this math. No, it's the Bible. It's a story. So they don't say exactly what it was.
They followed the star. They do say it. They can take the literal bits literally. When they say they followed a star, I don't think that means anything other than that. But let's not get into this. Why are we doing it?
Which star that was it then?
Arwin's just using his tactic now, isn't he? This is taking us further away from
anything to get away from a damn flat plane again.
We're going to need a flat plane to take elevation angle measurements, and that's how we've mapped and navigated the world for a significant period of time. It's also the method used to derive a reification of a sphere to stand on, which we're not.
Right. But I mean, it is kind of a mystery, like follow the star, but is it like a light that's just hovering over Earth? It's separated from the rest of the celestials?
Do you know what
like,
a VW Golf looks like?
Hold on,
star, let me just try and break it down for you.
Like
you've got to stop at some point for me to break down an answer for you. You know what a VW Golf looks like?
No.
Do you know what a Ford Escort looks like?
Maybe.
Do you know what a car looks like?
Sometimes. No, yes, I do.
Okay. So pretend for a moment there's a red car just at the end of your street. Can you imagine that for me?
Sure.
And I say, follow that red car. What would you do?
Well, I follow the red car.
Okay. Now let's substitute the word.
It's a physical thing that I know it's there. It's not just a visual.
I'd follow it. Yes, thanks. Now let's substitute the word car for star. I say, follow that star. What are you going to do?
Well, it all depends on what I would understand stars to be and recognize what I'm even looking at.
You know they move. I'm pointing at one and going, follow that. You just follow it.
Well, if it is actually a star that is fixed on the celestial sphere, then yeah, that would be more straightforward, and it would be very informed about what it actually is.
Yes, it would be a pretty rubbish story if the narrator pointed at Polaris and went, follow that star. Yeah, that wouldn't be much use.
No, it would be. It would be extremely logical because now you have an actual reference to something on the celestial sphere that is still there.
Yeah, you're just being contrarian. It's not funny. It is funny, but I want to say it isn't because, hold on, I'm breaking character telling you it's not funny when it is funny. It's not funny.
All I'm saying is I don't know whether it's actually a star. The way they describe it, it doesn't seem like it's part of the celestial sphere. It's rather
This is turning into a biblical discussion about Christmas.
Similar to a star.
Hello? I don't want a biblical discussion about Christmas when we can prove Earth's flat and that the globe believers took those measurements and turned them into a sphere. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? And God said the sun would stop. No, it won't.
Yeah, but did only the sun stop, or did the entire celestial sphere stop?
Distance to the sun.
3 AUs.
Well, if you're going to use...
Oh, John. Arwinian units don't count. Go ahead.
If you're going to use radar or any of the Keplerian ideas to try to figure out a distance, that'll require a flat plane.
So, if you're going to claim heliocentrism in general, Earth moving around the sun in an orbital motion, in a Keplerian heliocentric description, you will be referencing a flat plane to describe those motions from a plane with respect to the celestial sphere?
Yes. Yep. whether you're using radar to try to bounce a signal and take the incident angle of the return, or if you're going to be using the celestial sphere and elevation angles within it to try to establish solar orbits. It both require a plane of reference.
Right. I mean, obviously, before Arwin gets in and say, yeah, but if I take that plane of reference, take the protractor that I've measured and make it into a 3959 mile radial sphere that I can stand on and reference to the plane inside it that I'm actually getting the measurements from, that would be your reference plane inside a ball. I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult to reference inside the ball, but that is essentially what they do.
Right. Well, it's not a plane of reference if it can't be referenced.
You're saying when they put the equatorial plane in a ball, it's no longer actually a plane of reference, something that's absolutely required for any of these angles that are described within orbital motions or the distance derivation of the sun.
Right, because the ball is
I'm saying when they
it's a plane underneath it, right?
Hold on, Arwen's got a distraction, John. Very important. Go ahead, Arwen.
Because there's always this angular relation between the celestial sphere and the flat plane underneath it. Without the flat plane underneath it, the celestial sphere is not anchored. It's not specific. It's not actually mapped without the flat plane underneath it.
You're correct. It's just the other way around. It's not that the flat plane is centered from the celestial sphere. It's the other way around. The celestial sphere is a description taken from a plane of reference. So it's the celestial sphere that's anchored to the plane. The plane is the starting point, not the celestial sphere.
Maybe.
Right.
No, fact.
The point is that you can't map the celestial sphere without a plane. That was my point.
Well, yeah, that's more accurate. To say you can't map out a celestial sphere without a flat plane to begin with is far more accurate. Yes, Arwen, that's a much better phraseology. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, my point was, as long as you're using the equatorial plane from inside the celestial sphere, you're fine. The moment you wrap a sphere around that point of measurement, you can no longer reference the plane because you don't think you're at that point to reference it.
Yeah, that's where you have to convolute the discussion when starting at a sphere by, number one, ignoring the fact that you can't get an elevation angle measurement to any of the stars, but notwithstanding the fact that you can't actually take any angle measurements because you don't have a horizon to reference for surface level, even though that's part of their maths, you start drawing parallel light rays and inferring that the angle you take that you can't take moves to the center of a sphere. Why? Well, because then we can use everything where it works on a plane in the center of the sphere. But it's all good because all the light rays are strictly coming in parallel with each other and they all move to the center of the sphere anyway. So it's all good that we stand inside hell, inside the sphere, and work off this plane here. We're not on this plane, obviously, because we're not on the sphere anymore, and that's what we really live on. On that sphere we're not referencing and not using and not taking angles from. Because they all come in parallel to that sphere, so we can work in the middle of it. We're in hell now. It's all good. That's what they do.
No, you can't do that, though. You can't reference that plane if that plane is unreferenceable. So it's no longer a plane of reference when you try to put it in hell.
Another shout out to Jardo, who says that Maggie were astronomers, amongst other things. A new star shining bright is a huge astronomical event. Hey, they used knotted string strung from face level well before a sextant. The star was fixed. Okay, fair enough. If I didn't have such a heavy cold, my eyes wouldn't be all blurry, and I'd read that a lot better. But thank you very much for the super chat. I think I got your general sentiment.
Elevation angles have been taken for that's before Christ.
I've got a sentiment. He's saying, while you poo-pooed my notion that they might be taking elevation angles, I assure you elevation angles were used long before Christ. That's his point, right?
Yes, that's why I was just trying to clarify what he had said. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. But I hate to do it to you again for a second time, Jardo. Is that what it says, though, in the Bible? This is not a Bible discussion, but it is become one because Jardo spent $30 on making it one, so it's going to be one for $30. It's just how I am. I'm a slave to money. What can I say? Anyway, if the Bible talked about celestial navigation in any respect, with the story of Christ's birth, Christmas, then I don't remember any part of the nativity having any navigation details in it. Follow that star was all there was. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but the relevance was to how they would know that star was, why that would be such a big deal to them.
Yeah, but it wasn't triangulate your position with respect to that star, was it? Or I
No.
take that back. Not triangulating anything. I'm not. The Bible didn't say perform celestial navigation to establish your position with respect to 2 or 3 lines of position to stars by making circles of equal elevation after deriving elevation angles, minusing from 60 and timesing by 90, or minusing from 90 and timesing by 60, I should say.
No, that's not what Jardo's point was. Jardo's point was that this light in the sky is now shining brighter. That means they would have had to know the baseline level of intensity or understood the celestial sphere enough to say, this is a major event. Let's go this way.
Okay. Well, it's coming up for Christmas. Maybe on Level Up channel, we'll get some coverage of the Nativity. We will see. Anyway, let's move on. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No one ever does.
Just no. Fair enough answer. I can't really disagree.
Right. It's impossible. The definition of angle is 2 straight lines meeting at a vertex. So you can't curve one of those lines and it still be an angle.
What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. Probably never.
Well, a heliocentrist in that field would first have to utilize the Earth as a flat baseline to establish a radius value to get their values for solar systems and astronomical units. So, no.
Are you suggesting that to infer a non-phenomena based mathematical reification of an orbital motion as described in astrophysics, for example, you would need a flat plane to derive elevation angle measurements to stars, for example, to give you a celestial sphere to then infer the orbital motion, and then infer that you've got a non-phenomena based, scientifically validatable cause and effect relationship? Is that what you're suggesting? It's a bit of a stretch.
Well, like when they say the stars are disappearing below the horizon.
Gotcha.
Right.
You got there quickly. I'm surprised, John. That's impressive. You got there real quick. Carry on. My bad. I'm just impressed.
Right. They're using a flat plane celestial sphere to assert that the stars are below your feet in that model. But it's still a flat plane model.
But that's the obstruction of the physical geometric sphere edge below surface level, obstructing at the surface level. You phrase that better than I do. You know what I'm talking about, right? The obstruction of the flat plane.
Physical geometric obstruction of the flat plane is what they try to assert.
Right. So in their mathematics, they're deriving a physical obstruction that's below the surface level by giving you mathematics that give you your eye level versus the surface level. So the difference between the two, a la Al-Biruni when he raises in altitude and then just calculates, like, well, how far down is the ground I've just risen up from and measured flat? Because the difference is going to give me an earth curve obstruction below the surface level I just measured as flat. So therefore, you've got an earth curve obstruction claimed to be an actual obstruction derived from a differential between eye level and surface level, which is flat. That's the trick. What I've just described is the, not simplification, the, what's the word? The qualification of how you as an individual would come to describe there being an earth curve at the horizon. Complex stuff, really, when you try and phrase it out in the way that it's actually true. A flat earth surface level obstruction calculation for a physical geometric sphere edge horizon below surface level derived from the differential between eye level and the flat surface level. That is earth curve.
Right. That's their assertion of what that calculator is doing. It's actually doing, as I understand it, is taking the resolution loss between differential and altitude adjustment and creating a multi-layer flat plane below it that has that resolution arc become the geometric horizon.
Or to put it another way, as you raise in elevation, you increase your angle to the surface. As you increase your angle to anything, you increase your resolution. Now, with distance, raising in elevation will increase resolution and increase the distance that you can see. That has been converted into circles based on elevation that then convert into an arc that you can describe as a surface, as opposed to a resolution loss calculation based on an elevation and how much the angle will give you more information to see, aka a greater distance. Same goes in reverse. As you decrease in altitude, you limit the angle, ergo limit the resolution that you can resolve into the distance. That would be inferred by earth curve mathematics that give you how much resolution you will lose as you lower in altitude, and plot that out also as a curve. And you can infer from that maths of resolution loss that there is a differential between surface level and eye level, giving you a reified physical geometric sphere edge below the surface level that you've calculated that resolution loss on. It's earth curve.
Right. Yeah, it still requires surface level to be a horizontal plane.
Well, you've got to calculate the resolution loss. If you're going to accurately describe where you can take what the calculator does in terms of what it's trying to infer visually represents the world you see. Now, for it to be a curve based on the resolution loss as you raise or lower in altitude, depending on how you describe it, then you can only describe that as the curve that comes out from left to right in Muppet vision. That's where your earth curve maths comes in. Hence, you'll never get a calculator that gives you a representation that mathematically shows you how the curve forms a sphere, because that will always be an orthographic view. But that orthographic representation of a sphere is just reverse engineering how we see the world and taking those maths, putting them into a spherical format without any perspective included. So the optical representations of our world obviously include perspective, the way that a limitation of angle increasing or decreasing with height would be more succinctly described to a layman would be perspective.
Yes. And that's why ray tracing works in video games, because it's not basing it on a sphere. It's using horizontal planes. It's just segmenting those horizontal planes into an ever-growing, increasing circumference as you raise in altitude.
Absolutely. On Friday, about the 45-minute mark, about now, was where the stream crashed, because I assume I've got the settings too high for the encoder to record and stream on OBS. But given that I turned them down and it's now saying they're too low, next show I'll turn them up and we'll see if we have an encoder crash tomorrow. But so far so good on lowered settings. Maybe that'll cause a problem tomorrow. But we've got past the 45-minute mark, which we didn't on Friday, which I'm very pleased about. Let's do a couple more housekeeping questions. The evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core. You can all join in, by the way. If you're new in the Discord server, feel free to pipe up at any point if you've got something that you want to add. We go through these motions daily. A self-perpetuating core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Anybody at all?
If you want to spout P waves and S waves and not give any context, you'll run into problems with the plane of reference with that as well.
So you're going to need a flat plane for that description of a molten iron core. How's that work?
Well, you would put your wave emitter, which is
No,
on the ground.
That's what I'm asking. Sorry.
Right.
We often cover the P waves and S waves and the return angle. Okay, you're going to need a flat plane for that angle if you're going to describe the signal that you get back. Gotcha. But to infer that we've got a core, this is just a radius-based question, John. How would it be the case that you can infer we've got a molten iron anything at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, the same way you would use the Earth curve calculator after you measured the flat plane. You would take geometric considerations with the return angles. And that's probably why their calculations are so wrong, like when it comes to the super deep borehole, is because they base their predictions on a sphere instead of using the flat plane measurements they actually took.
Is that true for the borehole? I didn't know that. I didn't know they actually based their incorrect measurements because they got it wrong. Basically, what John's saying, because he's got a lot of background noise, when they dug the Kola borehole in Russia, which is about an 2-inch wide pipe. If you've ever had my folks used to live on a farm, they had a borehole dug at one point, so I happened to see how a borehole gets dug. It's not very big. It's not what you would imagine. It's a few inches at best. But they dug down like 8 miles. And along the way, they had what they perceived to be a good idea of what they would encounter as they drilled because of the primary and secondary wave responses, return angle signals that we've just been describing that could only work on a flat plane. Well, John's going on to say that I always knew that they got it wrong. They thought they were going to go through sand. They went through water. They thought they were going to go through granite. They went through coal. Whatever. They're going through materials that they weren't expecting based on the return angle signals from a flat plane that they've received. But John's saying that they then took those predictions and made them spherical, and therefore they got them wrong. This is the first time hearing it. I know they got them wrong, but I didn't know that was based on spherical mathematics. Surely not.
Well, believe they live on a sphere. They always believe that. So they take their measurements from a flat plane, but they had to make it conform to a sphere. And that's where they get their ideas of what the layers will be. And I think that's why they got it wrong. Now, can I prove that at this moment? No. But I can guarantee you that they calculated it, what would be there based on Earth being a sphere.
Meh. You reckon? I don't think that's the case based on our own investigations into how things are performed. Even if you're looking at geodesic surveyors, they're still describing elevation changes with respect to a horizontal baseline. I still use that clip from the guy that was on Flatzoid's show that basically confessed to it. No, you're always going to be describing your vertical changes with respect to a plane. That's how it works. Right? Well, okay. Welcome to Flat Earth. Any inference you take from that point forward would preclude you having a surface level to reference, or in your case, sea level. Those are your standards because that is the standard. So if we're going to imply that any professional that's taking, in this case, return angle signals, is going to understand the implications of a return angle with respect to a baseline, they're going to level their tools, they're going to use their tools as they're intended, and they're going to interpret them based on a flat plane also. Now, it doesn't mean that in their religious rhetoric in their mind on a Sunday, they do go and worship at the altar of Baal, even though they've measured a flat plane. But I would infer that the professionals would still treat the world as it is, even though they still, I know as strange as that might sound if you're a newbie, you're going, so you're saying that somebody who measures Earth flat takes angles that could only be taken from a flat plane, can then go to bed knowing it's a ball? Yeah, so did you. You're here, right? So did all of us. But I don't think that's true, John. I don't think that's. You'd have to go some to convince me that was true.
You can know it's true though because of the models they create and show you to try to describe what they're going to run into. And the only ones I've seen are chunks out of a spherical Earth. Have you seen one based on a flat plane?
Yeah, but I've never seen the guy who actually ran the rig and the, what would it be, the engineer that was using, or the technician that was utilizing the equipment, and the interpretation of the results
No.
are angle based, aren't they?
Those that created the model, the engineer and the guy running the rig are just using a horizontal plane.
Yeah.
But the secular priest who designed the model that they're going to base the calculations of what they're going to run into would have used the sphere.
You sure? I don't know. Like I say, you'd have to. We'll have to draw a line under this here because you've already disclaimed that it's conjecture on your part. But I would definitely not buy that. I'd say no. The people who have inferred various things from the dig, or may have inferred it as it was being done, or labeling it the whatever they called it, road to hell or something, hole to hell. You know, I know there's plenty of implications that other people have taken from that dig, but and models that have been drawn up that are spherical in nature, that are based on flat Earth P waves and S waves. I don't dispute that, but we're talking about how the church uses some instance of someone doing a dig to infer that there's a spherical Earth. That's church rhetoric, as opposed to engineering rhetoric.
Right, but they're so intertwined.
I don't think they are. I really don't. If they are intertwined, then heaven help us, there is no point. There is no point, is there? If I think things will start to collapse pretty quickly. Things will fail if that's the case. Buildings will fall down. Bridges will collapse.
No. There's the utilization of engineering, right? And that's what they did when they dug the deep borehole. But there was the predictions made based on the idea that the Earth has a molten iron core, a mantle, and then a crust that surrounds it all. And within that crust, there's certain layers. Those are separate, but they're intertwined in that they all go to the same institution to learn their position.
Okay, maybe more investigation into the borehole is needed. I mean, it's a win-win either way for us, isn't it? Right, regardless. So if it is the case that they say, well, we took our measurements from a flat plane, and then the inference of a ball was where we went wrong and all the predictions fell on their ass as a consequence. Win for us. Okay, yeah, so you tried to turn a flat plane measurement into a ball, and that's why it failed. Alternatively, we took flat plane measurements, and we got it wrong. Okay? What difference does it make to me? You took flat plane measurements, right? Okay. 81 people watching. Please share the show on Facebook and X. Really appreciate all the people who smashed the share button already. It's good to see you all in the audience, whizzing on by in the live stream chat. Nice to have you all here. Hopefully we can push it over 100 between now and Friday. Get those numbers back up again. But yeah, please share the show if you've not done so already. What haven't we covered? We hinted at it, but we didn't cover it. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Do y'all want to talk about not actual deflection, or do you want to kill it quick?
Owen can object as much as he likes, but I'll always want to do that.
Yeah, to derive the idea that an axis even exists, you'll need a plane of reference and elevation angles to Polaris to derive the radius from for it to turn upon.
Okay. So further to last week, we had Tinfoil Hat Man on, and he and his observations, it would seem, as much as myself, John, and Quantum Eraser, and a few others were not necessarily poo-pooing his observations, but underwhelmed because we've been here a while. So no disrespect to Tinfoil Hat Man in that regard. But what it did do was generate a whole bunch of interest in exactly the way that was predicted when we were putting it out there, and disclaiming to Tinfoil Hat Man what he would encounter as a result of putting this sort of observation out. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he's starting to encounter. I've been reading through some of the Master B internal message board for Flat Earth Debate. There's a discussion going on about Ruhif specifically, who's making various claims about the observation height and all the stuff that we did back in 2015. I bet Ruhif's in his element. He's loving every second of it. Anyway, so I am in no doubt whatsoever that there will be people who will come past our way as a direct consequence of Tinfoil Hat Man and his observations, telling us how high he is and so on and so forth, distracting from everything we really generally want to talk about, which is how all flat Earth claims that are ever going to be utilised to make a globe into effect will be utilised by you, the globe believer.
Just to that, height in reference to what, Ruhif?
Sea level.
Oh, yeah, he's in trouble. That quick.
Yeah, that quick. I didn't catch that, but I love that you did. So, I love that I missed it too. Right, what John's just pointed out is when Ruhif challenges Tinfoil Hat Man on how high his position to take the picture was, that pause that I left in was intentional. How high above sea level he was? Are you going to need a flat plane to derive his vertical elevation, aren't you? You're going to need a flat plane to describe how high he is. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of measuring his height off a flat plane? The vertical axis. What's that, vertical in respect to horizontal? We'll need a flat plane for his height. That's game over immediately, isn't it, John? Immediately, Arwin.
Yes. You need the plane of reference to get your height from it.
So we'll need a flat Earth immediately, just to argue the toss about how high he is. Isn't that amazing? I wish we had these little tidbits in 2015 when we were doing this, because there was hints of it. If you go back and listen to the early shows, like maybe show 50 through 150, really early shows, you can hear us sort of with a furrowed brow when we get to things like sea level. We know something isn't quite right when we're saying it. And when we do go, well, hang on a minute, sea level. They're like, well, and we just seem to move on without really knowing, because we don't know, do we? We don't know any better. Oh, it's just a colloquial use of this term, sea level. Sea level really means bent around a sphere. No, it can't possibly mean that. No, that ball is up horizontal. And that's a fundamental principle when you're claiming a ball. You'll need that. And you'll need to reference that in order to claim you're on a ball. We'll point it out every step of the way. What's that? How high he is with respect to the horizontal axis? What, him in the vertical? We're definitely going to need a flat plane for this. $92 people watching. Are we going to get up to 100 before we get to the hour? 95 people watching. Someone's definitely sharing the show. Thank you very much, all of you. Smash that share button. Might get to 100 people watching on the very first show back. Wonderful. And with all of Arwin's objections. We haven't said hello to Arthur, by the way. Hello, Arthur.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello. Good to have you. Gonna hang around for the after show, right?
Yes, that's my
There's
next.
one more house.
By the way, I had a message for the Therians of India, but we can do that in the after show also.
Tartarians of India.
Etherians, the ether
Oh,
believers.
Etherians. Same difference. Same piss in a different bottle.
Agreed.
Before we do, we still have to address gas pressure without a container.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? For all the numpties who think the sky is a vacuum without containment?
Well, if you're going to assert that there's an atmosphere that's holding the gas here, that will be calculated from sea level.
So you're saying that the gradation based on the horizontal reference to the vertical differential of each gradiated layer, you're going to describe each gradiated atmospheric layer, stratospheric layer, whichever layer you're describing, in the vertical. Therefore, you're going to need a horizontal plane of reference to describe the gradation on a reified sphere.
Absolutely.
So to describe the stratosphere in terms of where it would be at what height, you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Yes, because atmosphere is always with respect to sea level.
So to describe where they infer the Kármán line is, would be with respect to sea level.
Yes, that height above sea level is that arbitrary point where they say the Kármán line is and entropy stops taking place. As silly as that is, they're still using a flat plane to calculate that.
Right. Well, isn't that strange? I think we've covered all the housekeeping questions in this hour, and we're very, very, very close to hitting 100 people watching, which I'm delighted about. Arwin, go ahead.
I was saying. So
Oh, is it you,
I have
Arthur?
an
Sorry.
observation. I have an observation I wanted to share that here in India, I am in many of the WhatsApp groups where they share memes. And of late, I have started observing that many of the memes are flat earth debate arguments, like of sextant and celestial navigation and the black swan argument, or at least very similar to the arguments that I hear in flat earth debate. And earlier, what all used to get shared was how NASA is fooling us and all those 2015 memes. So I don't know if you have observed it on X or Facebook also, but that is something that I have observed.
I see. So you're saying that the reaction, when people want to share their pain through artistic means, they do it through memes. And the memes that people are expressing their pain through are memes related to the arguments that we have put forth.
Yes. I'm so glad to see that.
Well, people are going to share their pain with memes. It's what happens. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say if you are... well, I clear my throat so I can hopefully do the whole outro. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another huge, massive and enormous thank you to the Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams. No, we're still doing the live show outro. I've been very sick this weekend. Massive thank you to all of you for sharing, commenting, liking, hitting the super chat and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!